Hello, welcome back to the Everything is Black and White podcast. I am Andrew Musgrove, joined by John Gibson, and it's time for the first match preview of this week. Newcastle United back in Champions League action against the Belgian side Union, and they are going good in the Belgian top flight. John, welcome back to the podcast. How are you keeping? Are you well?
Well, I think I've just picked up all the pieces, having been shattered after Arsenal. I think I've found all the pieces and, like Humpty Dumpty, stuck them all together again.
Well, I'm glad somebody has, because I think there'll be a lot of people watching and listening to this still absolutely fuming, hurting after Sunday's defeat to Arsenal. By no means the ideal preparation for this game on Wednesday, which is huge. Before we get into Wednesday's game and your thoughts on that defeat to Arsenal, just to remind everybody that this episode is sponsored by NordVPN. Do click the link in the podcast description box to get an exclusive offer on your NordVPN plan. Prices start at just £2.30 per month, and you'll get an extra 4 months on the plan as well. It's perfect if you're on the train, on the bus, in a restaurant or cafe, and you're connected to public Wi-Fi. NordVPN offers you that element of security to protect your details from any hackers who may be lurking in the shadows. So support the podcast, keep yourself protected, and click the link in the podcast description box. John, we'll start with Arsenal, because even though it wasn't the best of performances, with 5 or 6 minutes remaining on the clock, it looked like Newcastle United were going to get 3 valuable points. And even when Arsenal scored, there's still a little bit of hope that it would be a valuable point to hopefully kickstart Newcastle's season. As it was, heartache at the end, at the death, as we've experienced before this season. How are you feeling about it?
Well, it was Liverpool all over again, wasn't it? A 96-minute winner that ripped our hearts out. I mean, Newcastle players had brave hearts. It was cruel, no question about that. But it was also naive, you know. We've lost at home to Liverpool and Arsenal to a 96-minute winner when we were pressing for a winner and sacrificed the ball very easily and got turned over. There is a stage where you're streetwise and you say, what we have, we hold. Yes, we thought we were going to win, but it's a valuable point against Arsenal. Let's make certain we keep it. And what did we do? We give it away at the death, and that was naive. And that is going to gnaw at the belief of players that it's happened twice and on home soil. In front of the faithful, and that wasn't the build-up we wanted. I think it was cruel, yes. I think we had brave hearts all over the park, yes, but we had an awful dollop of naivety as well, I felt, Andrew.
Yeah, certainly so. Nick Pope should have just fallen to the floor instead of kicking the ball up to Elanga, but that is that. As Eddie Howe said, hindsight is a wonderful thing. Just briefly, John, I want to talk about the other big talking point from that game, and that was the injury to Tino Livramento. He's not going to be involved on Wednesday. He's probably not going to be involved for the next few weeks. The whispers are that it's not as bad as first feared. And when you see someone leaving the pitch on a stretch, hands over their eyes, they're distraught, you do fear the worst. And look, 3-4 weeks, 5-6, it's still a blow. Hopefully it's not months, though. What's your feeling on it?
I feel so sorry for the lad who was out for such a long time before we signed him with an ACL. And I feel sorry for us, and I feel sorry for the management. He is a Rolls Royce, and to be garaged for a long time. And it's going to be a long time. Hopefully it's not what we thought it might be, which would have put him out for a year. Hopefully, we don't know yet. It's not that. But my first thought was, oh, no, please. I mean, he's played right back and left back for us, been absolutely magnificent. One of the first choices, probably along with Tonali on the team sheet. Has won back in England place. And this is World Cup year as well, looking beyond Newcastle, and we find it very difficult to do that because we're very biased. But from his point of view, World Cup year, I mean, isn't it a tragedy? And it looks like, we're just about to get one left back, an England international back, Lewis Hall, and we'll lose another one. Like you and everybody else, I was decimated when I saw it happened immediately. And he came off virtually in tears, covering his face on the stretcher. And I do still fear the worst. Not the ultimate worst, Andrew, not the something that's about 14, 16 months, but something that's a big enough hole in his season and in ours.
Yeah, it would be devastating to lose him for a long period of time. And you mentioned there Lewis Hall. I'm not one of those fans who tends to subscribe to Newcastle United having rotten luck, even though you could provide enough examples. But it does seem very Newcastle United to get back one fantastic fullback who had to miss a large part of last season. And just when he's coming back to full fitness, you lose your other fantastic fullback. You just have to laugh, because if you don't, you will cry. Maybe the lesson is, John, don't be a good left back in Newcastle, because you'll just get injured.
I suppose the lesson is don't sort of get your hopes too high, because we're thrilled to sign a centre forward at long last. And then before Wissa could play a solitary single moment for us, he was injured, and we've never seen him either. I agree with you. I don't sort of contribute to the, we're doomed and we're jinxed and all that. But there's a lot of evidence for those who want to feel like that, I must say.
There certainly is. I mean, Arsenal, dominated most of that game, and they probably got what they deserved in the end. And there's been a lot of analysis of Newcastle's performance and how they sat off, but how they looked nervous, how they looked uncomfortable, questions of identity. And it does feel very much like Newcastle United are going through not just a transition period with Nick Voldemort, who scored a wonderful header, but in general, we've spoken before about how Eddie Howe wants to change his team from being one that flies up forward on the counter to one that dominates. And it does seem like the moment they're stuck between the two styles of play.
There's something wrong somewhere, Andrew. And by that, I don't mean dark theories and all that sort of thing. Just little things that need tweaking. Because, only one player has gone out of this team, the centre forward, and a new centre forward come in. Otherwise, yes, we've got a Langer and all, but otherwise, it's basically the same side. Now, is the whole house about to collapse because one bloke's gone out? There's other things, yes, that makes a difference. Yes, we've got to play slightly different with Voldemort coming in, because Isaac ran beyond. This fella comes short in Leipzig defeat. It's a different way of playing. But what happened? I mean, what's happened to the spread of goals? What's happened to goals from the wingers? What's happened to getting a goal from the centre halves? I mean, I remember going back a little way when Lascelles was a real threat going up as a centre half to score. I still don't think we're getting enough goals from Byrne, because we use them as a feed on set pieces, head back across goal instead of head on goal. We don't get enough there. Midfield doesn't come in enough. We've scored 4 goals in 6 games. And by the way, Voldemort has got 2. At this stage last season, after the same number of games, Isaac had only scored 1, whereas Voldemort had got 2. But Harvey Barnes had got 3. Gordon had got 2. Shaw had scored. Someone else had scored, maybe it was Bruno. But we had twice as many goals, but they were spread. We're not spreading anymore. Gordon doesn't look yet the player he was, which was a fabulous player, and he's trying and he's doing his very best when he's playing outside left in his proper position, but he doesn't look quite what he was. There's other components need looking at. It's oversimplistic to say that because we've got the big German, everything's changed and it's understandable. It's not understandable. It's one person in. We've got to change the way we're playing. But what happened to the goal-scoring wingers? What's happened to the backup around the box for finishing? There's more wrong than just one man.
No, indeed. And hopefully it does click. We know Newcastle tend to be slow burners. But it's interesting that you mention the start to last season when Newcastle had scored substantially more goals. Just run through the results. Beat Southampton 1-0, Bournemouth 1-1, Spurs 2-1, Wolves they won 2-1, lost to Fulham 3-1, and then drew to Man City at home 1-1. So they were the first 6 games. Now, what you notice there is, they scored in 5 of the opening 6. They scored in all of the opening 6 games. But they also conceded in 5 out of the opening 6 games, whereas this time around, their defence is much more sturdy, much more stronger. You know, if it wasn't for Nick Pope making a mistake, you know, they would have only conceded probably 1 goal on Sunday against Arsenal. How difficult, John, is it for Eddie Howe, I mean, just for any football manager in general, to concentrate on getting that defence back to what we knew it was a couple of seasons ago, that season when they qualified for the Champions League the first time around, you know, it was pretty much unbeatable. Last season, you know, they conceded a lot more goals. This season, we've seen them go back to that strong defence, but then they're lacking the goals up top. Is it difficult, you think, to get the balance?
Yeah, I take the point. If I may come back just for something you said, Andrew, and defend Pope, we're saying, but for Pope's mistake at the end, we would have possibly drawn or won the game. But for Pope's saves before that, we would have been 4 down. I mean, it's tragedy for the lad, the last 10 minutes or 5 minutes of the game, because for 80 minutes, he was sensational. He produced save after save after save. We could have been 4-1 down long before the last 10 minutes come, but for him. And then, because everybody remembers what happens at the end and how it changes the complexion of things because you've lost. But all of a sudden, he's a villain. He was a hero that had kept us in it until then. So it must be said that the defence hadn't looked that great until then. Pope had looked that great until then. Although I've got to say again, Andrew, that I thought Chow and Botman looked good players. You know, until what capitulation at the end, I thought they looked classy. I go back to what I said all last season, and I promise you, I'm not going to bang the drum, but I'm not a fan of Byrne playing left back. I've got to say, he has the heart, as we always said, and you used to goad me into saying it, the size of a frying pan, but he hasn't got the pace. In frying pans aren't fast, I suppose. But he gets exposed out there. He's not a left back for me. He's great in a 3, and he's great in a 2. But stick him as a left back. I hope now Livramento's injured, by the way, he doesn't start playing left back because, bless him, I love him to death in his proper position, but I'm fighting to death of him when he plays in that position. But yes, going back to what you were originally asking, it is the problem is getting the balance right. But, you know, I think it's happened more by accident. I don't think we have got all these clean sheets in the league because we've been purely defensive minded, because a lot of the clean sheets we got early doors should have been wins, but we didn't have a centre forward to score goals. We did create as well. So it is a matter of getting the balance. We've leaked goals against the best 2 sides in the country, which is Arsenal and Liverpool, and against Barca, who are European royalty. But the rest of the time was sound as a pound at the back. My worry is probably a little bit further upfield. And I tell you what I found interesting, Andrew, and I don't know about yourself, but I felt that Bruno and Tonali, who, along with Joe Linton, have formed what is arguably the best middle 3 in the Premier League. That's debatable, by the way. I'm not certain it's as clear-cut as that. It's debatable. But I tell you what, I thought that Bruno was absolutely anonymous in the game against Arsenal. And I thought Tonali, by his high standards, and I think he is a fabulous player, but it wasn't one of his best. And I thought Declan Rice just powered through them, and Eze looked absolute quality. And so our much vaunted midfield 3 didn't look much vaunted, and therefore we lost our springboard, Andrew, for going forward. We'd lost the springboard because we lost the midfield. And if they're the best 3 in midfield, they often didn't look it against Arsenal.
Yeah, you'll find no arguments from me on that. I think the midfield on Sunday was particularly disappointing in key battleground, and Arsenal won it with relative ease. Just to make a point on the defensive question, just gone back there and got the stats. So that Champions League qualification season conceded just 33 goals. They scored 68. Then the season after, it was 62 goals conceded, but they scored 85. And last season, conceded 47 and scored 68. So you can see the numbers there and what Eddie Howe is potentially looking to to achieve this campaign. But very early on, if you've got one section in your game kind of sewn up, which they seem to have defensively, then we just have to get everything crossed that the other elements of the game, i.e. scoring goals, clicks as soon as possible. Union, John, are a good side, and they are top of the Belgian Pro League, unbeaten in their opening 9 games. They've won 7, conceded just 4 goals, and they have 3 players who've scored 4 goals this season. So we were talking there about spreading the responsibility for scoring at Newcastle United, and here we have 3 players at Union who've scored 4 goals already this season, including Promise David, who listeners and viewers of the podcast know I'm a big fan of, so I'm looking forward to seeing him on Wednesday. Hopefully he has an absolute stinker, although something tells me he might not. This was one of the fixtures, John, when the draw was made, that everyone went, yeah, we fancy ourselves there. It's going to be a very difficult task, isn't it? Even though they're not playing at home because their ground isn't up to UEFA standard. This is a very, very good side, and Newcastle United are going into this maybe a little bit down in the dumps, feeling a little bit hurt after Sunday. Don't look like a team with huge confidence. Look like a team, as I said, in a bit of a transition period. Union flying high, top of their league, full of confidence. I mean, this is going to be a big, big test.
And you haven't mentioned the 1-3-1 at PSV Eindhoven in the opening Champions League match. However, before we all get absolutely terrified of our own shadow, what they've done is in the Belgian League. And the Belgian League is not the Premier League. It's not La Liga. It's not Bundesliga. It's not Serie A in Italy. Let's keep a sense of that. They've been sensational in Belgian football. But that's in Belgian football, and we mustn't go. Yes, the only advantage they've got for me over us is that they will be flying mentally, and mentally we might be a bit afraid. But this is Premier League against Belgian Pro League. I mean, whatever we say, if you look at our 8 fixtures, if we are going to progress, we might well have expected to lose to Barca, and we might well expect to lose to Paris Saint-Germain away, as they are the champions of Europe. So we've got to win one of our away games, if not more, and win our other home games. Now, this is as good a chance of winning the away game as any. Let's not get carried away by they've done this, that, and the other. We could sit and say Bradford City, when they come here, top of the league, unbeaten, beaten 2 championship sides away in the last round of the Carabao Cup. Now, I'm not suggesting Union or anything like Bradford City, because they're miles ahead of them. But we can take a load of stats and get terrified. We are supposed to be a quality side that last season won a domestic trophy and finished qualifying in the toughest league in the world to make the Champions League. If we are scared of this lot, we may as well run the white flag up for the rest of the Champions League fixtures. If we are going to progress, we win here. If we're going to progress, maybe we're not going to progress. But I feel that, Andrew, it's not just a matter of winning our other home games in the Champions League. I think we may have to win one away if we're to progress, and we've still got to think like that. Of course we have. And if we're to do that, then we go to Union. We certainly don't lose, but we ought to win. And funny enough, when we've talked, Andrew, about letting in goals, and we let in 3 against Liverpool at home, 2 against Arsenal at home, 2 against Barca at home, we've got 3 0-0 draws away. We've been very, very tight away. And how much better are Union than, say, Aston Villa or Leeds or Bournemouth? And we've got no draws. Now, not again, on one of my little ones, I'm not certain a no draw is a great result here, because I think we've got to win one away. But a 1-0 win would be a great result here. If we can get another clean sheet and score once, that would be fine.
How big of a game is this in terms of Newcastle United's overall start to the season? Because a lot of people are saying it's a big week. Got Nottingham Forest coming up on Sunday, and given the results that have happened so far, these are 2 huge games. Do you agree with that?
as long as you're getting the results we are getting, the next game's always a huge game. It doesn't matter who it's against and what competition it's in. The next game's a huge game. Why? Because we're simply not getting used to winning. We're not winning regularly. But, we've had some tough games. When you think of the 3 we lost at home, by Jove, we were playing the cream in Liverpool, Arsenal and Barcelona. We've had some tough games. But this week is a real opportunity to turn the season round, because we're capable of winning at Union, and we're capable certainly of beating Nottingham Forest at home, because big hands can't buy a win anyway. So we've got a great chance over the next few days to change the complexion of this season totally. But we've got to go out and grasp it. It won't be handed to us. We've got to go out and grasp it. But there is an opportunity, isn't there? These 2 games are both winnable.
No, certainly so. I'm just wary of writing off Union with the start they've had. And obviously,
I'm not trying to write off Union, Andrew. I'm trying to boost us, because unless we think positively, I don't mean me and you, I mean Newcastle United. Unless we think positively, Newcastle United, then we will get we're backside tanned. But if we think positively, and look and say, there's nothing wrong with saying we are better than Union, as long as it doesn't make you complacent or make you go out there with cigars in a deck chair. You shouldn't feel inferior or the same as. You should be walking and saying, I tell you what, when we play to our top form, we are a better side than Union. Man for man, we've got a lot of better players than Union. Let's go out and show it. If we use that the right way, we should get the result there and against Nottingham Forest. And if we don't think like that, then we won't get it.
It's strange, isn't it? Or funny, rather, what a difference 10 minutes makes. Because we would come in here having beaten Arsenal 1-0, I'd certainly be flying the flag down the path that you're walking on with your positivity, John. I'm just feeling a little bit, on edge slightly, because it is a massive, massive week. And heaven forbid if Newcastle lost this game, then that game against Sunday just goes up an absolute another level, doesn't it? So fingers crossed they do get the victory. I mean, in terms of how Newcastle United go into the game against Union, what are you wanting to see? Are you wanting to see instant high press, intensity? Do you want to see them go for it straight away, or do you think they're going to have to be a little bit clever?
I don't want to see them go for it straight away if that implies gung-ho, because that would be absolutely silly. But I want them to start positively. I thought they started quite jaded. They would look jaded a little bit against Arsenal. They didn't start with any high intensity. They started like, a little bit unsure, if you like, and then we got into a lead and that was something, etc., etc. But, if the players believe this is tough and this is going to be this and this is going to be that, then they will lose by 2-1 or something of that nature and say, oh, well, yeah, we always knew it was going to be tough. But what mood does that take you into Nottingham Forest? You've got to believe in yourself first and foremost, and then go out and impose it on the other. Believing in yourself and saying this is a winnable game isn't being complacent or isn't being big-headed. It's being positive. It's the mood you must take in, because what's against us here is taking a negative mood to Brussels. If we take a negative mood to Brussels, we've got one foot in the grave straight away.
But there does seem, looking at where they're playing, they don't seem confident. They don't seem to have that self-belief. That's at least what I'm concluding from what I'm watching. Now, of course, I'm sure inside the camp, they're all happy, they're all smiles. They'll be obviously disappointed at the way the season's begun. But do you share that, John, where you're watching them, they don't look confident?
Yeah, I've said to you, Andrew, before, earlier in this podcast, there's something's wrong. Something is not right, because it's not just a matter of the centre forward. It's where's our wingers, where's our midfield, etc., etc. Where's our goals, where's the va-va-voom that Gordon used to have. But the only way that's going to be put right is by a positive display at somewhere like Union, who give you that possibility of doing it. It's a better match playing at Union than playing at Paris Saint-Germain next.
Yeah. So is this where Bruno earns his money? Is this where Eddie Howe, Jason Tyndall earn their paycheck?
Oh,
Because
absolutely. Absolutely. Because, it's all right, Bruno looking what he looked, which was a wonderful, wonderful player. And he is a wonderful player, but it's all right looking like that against Bradford City and then disappearing against Arsenal. I mean, you're looking to your captain on the big occasions, aren't you? And by the way, I'm not having to dip at him permanently. I'm just giving him standards to live up to because he has been a magnificent player for us. And Joe Tenali still is. Joe Linton's been a magnificent player for us. But Joe, I've got a feeling he's carrying a little bit of a knee, and I'm not certain he's so positive in his mind about that knee standing up to things as he was before that was a problem at the back end of last season. But this is the game where your top men stand up and be counted. Bruno, let's see it. Joe Linton, let's see it. Gordon, can you remember what you did to get in the England side? Let's see it. Elanga, we paid 50 odd million. Why? Because of what you did last season at Forest. Let's see it.
yeah, fingers crossed they do stand up. But I was more meaning in terms of like pre-game on the flight, when they're training in the stadium this evening, the message, because we're talking about the message has to be, we are better than Union. We have to go out there and prove it. This is where you have your captain delivering that message, where you have Kieran Trippier with the experience, where you have Eddie Howe, whether it's an arm around the shoulder of certain players or it's, banging the drum in the ears of others. That's where they now need to earn their monthly or weekly paycheck, isn't it? Getting the message out, because if we're looking at it and we're saying they don't look confident, they don't look like they've got self-belief. I mean, how easy is it for Bruno, who we're putting in that camp, who's got that lack of belief in our view?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people around us, Andrew, that have got that, mate. I think Mad Dog will provide it. Trippier will provide it. Byrne will provide it. They'll beat the gong and say, come on. And then perhaps players that don't do that automatically, like Gordon and like Harvey Barnes and like Voldemade and like Elanga, they'll respond to that. So this is where you need not just Bruno and Eddie Howe as our leaders, but the rest of this much vaunted group of leaders. We're always getting told Newcastle United are lucky to have so many leaders. Well, let's see. And I think let's see Trips and Byrne and Mad Dog whipping these lads and saying, look, I mean, this week, I think between the Arsenal game and kicking off in Brussels, the most important part is, and I'm sure it'll happen, one session behind closed doors for, say, an hour, where we talk positively about what Newcastle got. We remind them of what we did last season when we won at Wembley. We remind them of getting to a cup final 2 years before that. We remind them, man for man, this is a better team. You remind them that this is from the Belgian Pro League, not from the Premier League. You remind them of the solidarity we showed in those 3-0 draws away from home, and ask for one moment of magic from somebody midfield or up front to make it into a 1-0. I think getting between the ears of every player is much more important than tactics on the night, because frame of mind, as you've said and as I've said, is the all-important thing. But why should we go there in fear? I know the answer to that is because our form's been what it is, but not because of what we're facing. Of course, they're good. They wouldn't be in the Champions League otherwise, but they're not unbeatable. They're not Barca. They're not Paris Saint-Germain.
On the other hand, do we put the results and form into context? And you mentioned it earlier in the show. They've just lost to Liverpool. They've just lost out to Arsenal. They haven't been. I mean, yeah, Arsenal did dominate the game, but Newcastle were never out of it right until the end. Liverpool, it was tired legs. You can say the same about Arsenal. It's just poor defending in the end, really. Barcelona didn't take their chances, and if you don't take your chances against arguably the best side in Europe, then you're going to get punished. They haven't played badly. They've just not played at the standard we've come to expect of them. Does context have to be applied, that it's actually not as bad as some people are making out? It's not as bad as the points tally suggests.
No, but equally, if we don't win either of our 2 games this week, it'll off be bad. If we don't beat Union or we don't beat Nottingham Forest, because we have 1 win out of 6 in the Premier League and 2 out of 8 in every competition. That's not the Newcastle United we know and love. That's not the Newcastle United that will be fighting to get in the Champions League next season, get back in the Champions League next season. We've got to start getting the results. You look at the league table, and it's far too early to look at the league table. But you look at the league table, and we are down in the nether regions, and that isn't where we should be. And no doubt Aston Villa have been saying exactly the same thing. But we've got to get that changed quickly. But we've also got to, it's a fine balancing act, isn't it? We've got to remind them of 1 and 6 and 2 and 8 is just not the Newcastle United we love. And then you've immediately got to say this is the real opportunity to change that, Union and Forest. And you've got to remind them of last season winning at Wembley, and you've got to ask them how much they loved 300,000. Welcome them back to the Newcastle, and they want that again on the homecoming, and get the balance where they realise how poor they've been results-wise, but they're bursting out their britches to get into the game on Wednesday because they're saying, hey, come on, we've got more in this dressing room than they've got in the dressing room next door. Now let's go and prove it. Because otherwise, let us buy their team on block and play them in the Premier League under the guise of Newcastle United. We have the better players, but you've got to prove it. You can't live on your past reputation. Anthony Gordon's got to do it again, or he's not going to be England's outside left in the World Cup. Elanga's got to justify his fee. The big German has got to start shooting off either foot, because we said it, 2 wonderful goals, but how many good shots has he had on target? Well, the midfield's got to get up there, and the midfield 3 have got to look. I hope they go home tonight before they go to Brussels, the midfield 3, and look at have a rerun of the League Cup final and see how they bullied and dominated Liverpool. Because by Jove, they didn't do that against Arsenal. But that's what they can do. So let's get back to that again.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed they do so. Just looking, John, back in the history books, the last time Newcastle United won away in the Champions League, because obviously a couple of years ago they didn't pick up victory away from St James's Park. And if my research is correct, you have to go all the way back to February 2003. Now, admittedly, Newcastle weren't in the Champions League from that point up until 2 years ago, so okay, we'll give them that. But they beat Bayer Leverkusen 3-1 over in Germany with Scholler. I mean, you'll be getting two
goals, didn't he?
Yeah, and Loire getting the other one. Then a few days later, it was Leverkusen's trip to St James's Park with Big Al getting a hat-trick. But yeah, a long while ago since a win in the Champions League away from St James's Park. So hopefully they can do that on Wednesday. Let's run through the starting 11. Then always one that you just can never get right, but we'll do it anyway. Let's run through your starting 11, John. What you would do, not what Eddie will do, but what you will do.
Because they're always brilliant question. Because you've also got to presume that there's no further injuries, in training this week that have arisen out of the Arsenal game, and somebody else is out of it. I mean, I would go Pope, Trippier, Shaw. This would be controversial, Botman and Hall, because that's leaving Burn out. But if you put Burn in for Botman, I would have no complaints, because I would settle for that as well. But I just think Shaw and Botman are the future of the club in that position. We've still got to stick with the 3 midfielders that we always have, but expect better displays collectively from them. I forgive Tonali for his little dip in form against Arsenal, because he's carried this side for so long as being the number 1 flag bearer, and he is a stupendous player. Then the forwards, you've got to go Waldemade and Gordon, and it's just whether you have Elanga or Murphy on the other side. I would probably go Elanga.
Interesting. Now let us know in the comments your start 11. I've gone with Nick Pope. I've gone with Kieran Trippier. I think he'll revert back to Share in Burn if both are
Yes,
fit.
but what would you do? That's what we're asking. He asked me, not what would he do.
Yeah, now obviously Malik Chow been brilliant and Botman looked very good as well. I thought against Arsenal. I I think I would go with Sharon Byrne and potentially save the other two for Sunday against Forest. And then Lewis Hall has to start left back. Although I've got a sneaky suspicion he might play Dan Byrne at left back, John. And then
Thanks very much. That's given me something to look forward to.
got a sneaky suspicion he might do that, and then potentially.
Well, if he plays Osula centre forward as well, I'll be biting me fingernails up to me elbows.
Well, you'll find out on Thursday when we do the match review / preview for Forest. Something about Sula and my belief about Sunday, but we'll save that for that episode. Midfield 3, Tonali, Bruno, and Joe Then I would go Murphy and Gordon. Gordon needs a good talking to. I mean, against Arsenal, he was poor. I thought didn't look like the Gordon of old. Heavy touches. You've got to say this is your moment, son. Voldemort up front, but whether he'll last the whole game, probably just an hour on the clock. If we talk about what Eddie Howe will do, well, you might as well just, as you like to say, John, throw some confetti in the air and see where everything lands. I think he will. I think he will bring Trippier back, but like I said, I think he might bring Sharon Byrne back. Although there is a small
possibility. That's where his big decision will probably have to be, Andrew, is what's his two centre-half pairings. And you can go for Sharon Byrne or you can go for Chow and Botman, and you would suspect neither pairing would let you down. But I really would be strongly for Hall at left back and not Byrne. But we know that Eddie played him half a season there, I think, didn't he, at one stage, Byrne? And he just played him there against Arsenal. So, you know that's a great possibility with Eddie, but it's not for me, I must say.
I think one thing's certain, Dan Byrne will start, whether it be in goal, left back, centre back, up front. He will be in that start 11 years. I'll be very surprised if he's not. It's just whether, in a serious note, he plays centre back or left back.
By the way, I think he'll start as well. You asked me to pick my side, but I think Eddie's side, Byrne will start.
And there'd be a few raised eyebrows if Malik Chow didn't make the cut for the starting 11 because he has been standout over the last few games. But like we keep saying on this episode, it's now not just about the game that you're about to play. It's about the game coming up after as well. And look, maybe it's a little bit less important to rest and rotate because you've got the international break. So maybe that might come into thinking when it comes to this starting 11 and, of course, starting 11 on Sunday.
By the way, I hope Eddie stops looking at the game ahead and concentrates on the game now, because we've never won the game now. Every time he's supposed to have one eye on the game ahead. How about just concentrating on the game now and winning it?
Well, I'm sure he will argue that he does just concentrate on the game that he's about to play. And, of course, it's just our opinion that maybe he's got one eye on the game after that. I mean, it's just the difficulty of balancing the calendar, isn't it? It's games coming thick and fast. But yeah, let us know in the comments your thoughts on the starting 11. John, all that remains to be done then is to get your prediction. How is this one going to go on Wednesday?
Great question, like it always is with Newcastle this season. You can make out a case why they would just get beaten because they're much more confident than us. You can make out the case for a draw, albeit perhaps 0-0, because that's what we do away from home. Or you can make out a case for Newcastle winning because they're from an inferior league, and we ought to face facts and not be shy of saying that because it is true. And I'm going to go in the last way of looking at it. But A, because we need it, B, because it's about time, and C, because we're not as bad as we've painted ourselves to be so far this season. So I'm going to take a 2-1 victory for Newcastle.
I hope you're right. But I'm going to have to apologize.
You're going to take a draw, or you're going to take a draw, or even a defeat if pushed.
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm just not feeling it. I'm really not feeling it. And if we're anything, John, on this podcast, we are honest to our viewers and listeners. And I can't sit here and predict a point or a win if I'm being totally honest. Even if I'm talking from my heart, is it this side? Is it that side? Or whatever side, maybe it's right here. I kind of do it. And I have to just be honest and say, I think Newcastle are going to get beat on Wednesday. I think low on confidence. I think the
You're low on confidence as well.
yeah, you can tell. I think what's really, really crucial about Wednesday is that they handle whatever feeling came out of Sunday. So if it was anger, if it was disappointment, they've got to use that in the right way. And I'm just not sure that it'll come to the right result on Wednesday, unfortunately, which then just, like I said, accelerates the importance of Forest on Sunday. So it is with a heavy heart I think Newcastle are going to get beat on Wednesday. I think it'll be close, but I think they're going to get beat, unfortunately. And look, I can't wait to be proved wrong, but that's just my honest prediction, unfortunately.
I mean, what they ought to do, Andrew, is use the deflation of Arsenal in a positive way to bounce back. And it's good that they've got a game straight away and against the type of opposition they have, where bouncing back's a possibility. Because if we'd had to wait all the way through to Nottingham Forest, I think it could have get tough in between the years, if you know what I mean. They can almost bounce back straight away. If you're proved right, and I know you're hoping you won't be, but if you are, then on Thursday, when we talk again, we have got a problem, by the way, about Nottingham Forest. If we lose this game, Nottingham Forest is a real problem because it's a game between two losers then, because they can't win a bun fight and neither can we. But let's wait and see about that. I've forecast that I'm praying it's a win. With the right attitude and application, we should win, and I believe will win. But of course, it's not played on paper or in the dressing room, is it? It's played out on the pitch.
Well, I hope that your prediction is right, John, and I am very, very wrong about Wednesday, because otherwise I will not be looking forward to Thursday's episode. I might not even turn up, to be honest. Just let you speak to yourself about it. What happened? Hey, fingers crossed they get to win and you get me and John back flying high on Thursday, reflecting on a victory and looking ahead to the game against Nottingham Forest. Thank you for tuning in as always. If you're on YouTube, do it, thumbs up, do it, subscribe, get into the comments as well. I'll get back to you. If you're listening on the audio only platform, leave us a rating and review. Remember to take advantage of your NordVPN exclusive discounted offer by clicking the link in the podcast description box. Me and John will see you on Thursday.